Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to explain how the crafting works in crowfall patch 5.4.3. Keep in mind this is still a pre-alpha game and stuff will change as the game comes along. So I get a lot of questions these days that people want to know how to craft gear and what they need for it. And a lot of new players are confused and just wanted to get better gear so they can get started. Well, there are few things that you will need for it, and I don't know how it will change in the next patch, but I will just explain how it works as with this patch is right now. So I do know in the next patch 5.5 they're gonna remove basic gear, which can be found under the crafting and then under the basic craft you will be able to find gear and weapons. This will be removed in the next patch, if I'm not mistaken. But they may change their minds. I don't know. So that will all be removed. So a lot of people walk around at this moment with basic gear, which is pretty low. So a lot of people just want better stuff. Um, the one that should be available right from the start is Immediate Gear, if I pronounce it correctly, which can also be found once you get the crafting table, which looks like this. You should be able to find one in your safe zone in the building that looks similar to. Let's see if I can find it real quick. And it's on the inside. My apologies. You should be able to find an intermediate table in your safe zone in a building that looks like that. So at least you can get started. So let's get right back into it. If you really want more tables in the campaign mode, you will need to find one of these keeps, and there will be a lot more tables available to you. So back to the intermediate table. You will get a new extra menu in your inventory or under your crafting. That is this one, which allows you to basically craft the minimum materials required for those items. These are slightly better than the basic gear, but as I said before, the basic gear will be removed. And as far as I know, you will not require any training in your crafting tree in order to make the basic stuff as in the intermediate weapons and gear, which should get you started. Basic toolcraft, similar. They're nice, but they won't do as much durability or extra mining as you see in this item. So, in order to get the other tables, as you can see, I got multiple tables such as the woodwork, the rune crafting station, and the leatherworking, and so on and so on. In order to be able to actually fully use these tables, you will need to unlock research for it. You will get like a new tab showing up in your crafting once you access the table, which you can extend, and it will allow you to craft these items if you get the recipe for it. But in order to get this recipe and be able to use this crafting table, you will need to research it, which would be under the crafting tree. So to start off, you will probably need to research a lot of these points before you will be able to unlock them. So for an example, the rune crafting table, you will start with this one and you need to follow these lines in order to get to the rune stone. Once you have unlocked this, you should be able to unlock this one. Now you only need the first pip in this one, and a pip looks similar to these little bars that you see on the side. And you will only need the first one in order to get the recipes, as you can see in the text. Once you have one pip in this one, you will be able to access the table and you will be able to craft runestones. So, in order to make at least your basic farming weapons, is to go to the runes. and you will require either wood or stone. I prefer wood, stone, sorry, because stone is more durability and stronger as well. So you put the materials in it. You can also use the normal cobblestone for it, but the campaign world items are better and last longer. So that's our first craft. Oh, and keep in mind this game is still pre-alpha. This may change in the future. And now we have our first stone. Now, in order to make one of these recipes that is required for the for the rune, you will need a paper and an ore. You can get the paper even without researching the woodwork, which would be this table, which can be found in a keep or a fort, and you should be able to allow to craft a paper. All of this stuff you will not be able to see unless you unlock that table. But papers should be available to you. So you require one wood in order to make five paper. And there we have our paper. So we go back to the rune crafting station. And then we would want, for an example, an axe so we can get more wood. Then you put in two ores, preferably uh, tin and iron if you can manage to get them in the campaign mode. You can also use slag ore for this matter, as long as it is ore. But the better quality ore you have, the better the recipe will become. We add in our paper and we craft. Now keep in mind, normally this paper will look like this, but white quality. But because I use a combination of tin and iron ore, I will get a little bit more extra stats on it. It's a certain combination that I recently figured out myself. So now we got our extra paper. Now we go back to the rune bit, then harvesting tools. We add in our paper and our stone. If I can find the stone, there it is. Then we assemble it. And there we have our axe. And as you can see, I got some extra stats on it as well. And now we can get in our pips. I'm not quite sure if you will be able to put in the pips since I already have it researched a lot. But this will give you some more points on your harvesting as well. A normal would be looking something like this, like +5 logging. But because I use special materials, I get slightly more, as you can see. That's a big difference. So it is really valuable to research that if you're interested in harvesting. And this is the same for all the other tools as well. So now we actually have our axe, which can be equipped, and now we can look some wood, which will progress you further on in the campaign and will allow you to get better resources. Like the nut wood is nice, but cannot be used for everything. So back to the skills. As I said before, you will need to unlock a tree and research this one in order to unlock the table. And you need all of these in order to unlock the last one, which will also give you extra additional stats. So once you've done that, you will be able to unlock the next. And as you can see, I already have some bits researched, so it will allow me to do more. Now this will take time for it to complete. This particular one will take me 7.5 hours. There we go. 7.5 hours in order to complete that that one pip. And it will give me some extra stuff that I can use. Now, this is the same with necromancing, alchemy, stone, wood, blacksmith, leatherworking, and jewel crafting. You will only need the first pip in order to get the recipe. But the further you are, the more stuff you will be granted, such as more coins to spend and better quality and a higher chance of success. But that is the crafting tree. For exploring is more for harvesting. As you can see, I also have a lot of research in here, which will help me progress further on. Such as this one, it will grant me to cook these items when I get them. And this one allows me to make a survival campfire and so on. I guess you get the point. But it's really important to choose where you're gonna focus on. If you wanna get them all, you will take a long time. So it's better to focus on one specific tree and ask for anybody else to help you out. Keep in mind, this game is not recommended to play alone. This is definitely recommended to play with friends so you can balance each other out. Such as you will be focusing on crafting and your friend will be focusing on harvesting, for an example. So he can farm the resources you require in order to craft items. And you can focus on that crafting tree. And then you can share the craft. So, back to the other crafts. Gear, which will need a lot more resources, such as for the knight, for example, will require also some crafts, some shields or swords and so on. So, this is a little bit more tricky because you will need a lot of resources. So, for the weapon example, let's go to the one-handed weapons. For the sword, for example, let's see. Here. One-handed longsword. You will acquire these items, which you will need to craft by hand, such as you will need a long blade and a hilt. The long blade can be crafted with 3 metal bars, which can be found here. Require 3 ores each, and it has to be a non-basic ore, so you cannot use slag ore for this craft. You will have to get proper ore from the campaign mode, which can only be found in the campaign mode, unless you're really rich and you may have a 8,000 euro puzzle, which can no longer be obtained unless you craft it yourself. And yes, you can actually craft your own pieces of land. We'll get to that. So, in order to craft this, you will need the 3 ores such as this. Depending on which quality you use, you will get a better quality and more stats. Such as, if I use 3 green ores, you will see I will get critical hit chance and attack power. And because it's green quality, I will also be allowed to add in some more pips. I'll go for durability for this. Usually I would also recommend using these craft potions to get a higher success rate, but for this tutorial I will just leave it at this. Because I don't want to show off too much, because you will not be able to get that so in the early stage. And keep in mind, this is still pre-alpha and stuff will change and will be removed. And these are only in here for now. So I do not know if this will be in the game after it gets launched. So now we got our item. And now we can use these metal bars to craft a piece of the weapon if we get more. But I am not going into that right now. Then we also need a grip for the hilt, which will require stretch leather, which will be needing a leather working station. As you already figured out, you will need multiple crafting stations in order to make your armor for your knight. You could also use leather, but it's better to have copper plate armor. So stretch leather requires 3 hide. Will be something like that. And we can put in our points. I am not as far advanced in the ladder tree, so I do not have enough chance to get higher points. So, and with that we can make our components, such as the hilt. Now we got one component for our sword. Now we also need the rest, such as the hilt, requires these two items as well. So we need to get this one, and because I'm using green ore, I get more stats on it. The better the quality, the more stats you get. Now, we also need the rest, such as this one, requires another bar. And because I'm using better quality materials, I'll get more points and more stats. Like the normal sword does not really do much. Once we crafted our sword, you will see that it will do a lot more damage. So now we got our basic components, and now we're gonna combine them into the hilt. And as you can see, I get way more stats. I personally go for durability because I want my items to last. And since I'm not really full PvP, I'd rather use them for boars. So, now we only need the long blade, which require metal bars. So we go back to craft. If I remember, there we go. Which require ore. Now we'll use this one for this one. And as I said, depending on which materials you use, you get better stats. Now, we have our stuff. Now we can go to the long blade sword. And you do have a chance of failure. Now we got all our components required, so now we can actually assemble our sword. One-handed longsword. You can add another crystal if you have one, but it's not necessarily needed. And there we have our sword. And this one I'm gonna add some damage in it. But that's keep in mind there is a chance you can fail in it. Because I don't have too much research in it and I haven't used my potion, there's a bigger chance of me failing. So now we got our sword, and as you can see, the difference in damage is a lot higher and it has way more stats than the default. And that's how you craft a better weapon. This is the same principle with your armor. And if you look at my bank, I already have like a full set, which you cannot see the stats unfortunately because it's off the screen. I will not be able to show you the exact stats. It also works with tools as well, different stats on them. You have potions and so on to help you out. And most of that stuff can only be obtained in the campaign mode. But as you can see, there's a lot required. Like we have a cooking table to cook food on. There aren't any recipes for it yet. Then of course we got the rune table, which is really important. The blacksmithing table, the leatherworking table, woodworking table, The intermediate table, which can basically be used without learning anything, if I'm not mistaken, but this may change, I don't know. Then in that little house, we have another table. I think this is the enchanting table, if I'm not mistaken, but there aren't any recipes in it yet. They kind of rushed the tables in, so not everything is working properly yet. But in 5.5, it will probably be tuned a little bit more. But like I said, you will need the recipes in order to craft. So here we have our jewel crafting table. And as you saw earlier, I don't have that many pips in it, but I can still craft some jewels if I have the materials for it. Then over here we have the alchemy table, which will allow you to craft potions. And as you can see, these are only for pre-alching testing. But as you can see, there are a lot of choices for you to choose from. Then over here we have the stone crafting table, which will allow you to craft a lot of stuff, such as pieces of land. Now keep in mind, these resources are pretty expensive to make. You will need 1500 resources to make one earth, and you need 5 to just craft this castle. And you will need 10 to make a basic small farm castle. So, there you have the earth, and there you have the materials to make that piece. And it can only be non-basic materials. You will also be able to craft your own houses, keeps, manor, villas, and so on, which can be found with the other materials in this department, as you can see. And more will probably come later on. So all of this that you see can be crafted by the player. Now, to go a little bit further into the puzzles, these are the puzzles I was talking about. This is a farm puzzle. Oh no, wait, yeah, these are farm puzzles. And these are other type of puzzles as well. You can move them in your personal kingdom wherever you want, and the world will be automatically updated once you submit. You can also add them back into your inventory. But this can be manually crafted by the player. So I hope this was informative. I will show you a little bit what I have on my research, such as the Explorer. And it's slightly bugged. The only ones that are missing is this one, and that one, which I will be training later. Then I also got some in here, which will allow me to mine some more stuff, such as ore, gems, and so on. And these are still locked for me. But the further you progress, the more you will be allowed to do. That's just the crafting, or the harvesting, sorry. So for the crafting wise, I got 41% in the rune crafting tools, so that's why I can make better rune crafting tools. But you will only be able to make them once you unlock the first pip of the rune crafting table, which you will need to go all the way to this one. So if you're a farmer, I recommend to follow this line to go to this one first. And it also works with crafting. Oh, I already showed that, sorry. With harvesting, depending on where you focus on. This one I personally use to cook these grubs up, because these grubs will actually give you a full chicken once you eat them. And your character will have food requirements on the top of this. And you can also roast these peanuts if you get the recipe for it. And the recipe for this particular food can be found under the survival. Here's the campfire, and here's the cooking which require a camp. So you can also get some extra harvesting skills by putting the specific runes in them and then put the skills in there that will allow you to grant more harvesting. So I hope this was informative. So now you know how to craft stuff. You will need to unlock one of these tables first before you can proceed in crafting better items. And as you see, I already have some in blacksmith, and I will continue this path. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was good enough for you guys, and good luck in the game.